Hello. Hi, everybody, and welcome to SharePoint Power Hour. I'm broadcasting live, streaming straight to YouTube today, so I'm using a little bit of a different interface. I'm Laura Rogers. This is SharePoint Power Hour, a show that we do weekly every Wednesday at 11 Central. And today's topic is going to be Microsoft Ignite. Microsoft Ignite happened last week, and it's a very busy, crazy week. It went by way too fast. I was there in Atlanta for 6 days or so, and so today's episode is just going to be, recap, talk about kind of things that went on, and I don't have too much of a formal structure. We're going to be chatting in our chat room and going through some questions, and I'm going to talk about some of the announcements and updates that were made about SharePoint and about things that some things that are already in SharePoint and Office 365, and some things that are on the way. So it's a very exciting week, and I was so busy with networking that I hardly got a chance to go to any sessions. So all the sessions are actually out there on channel9.msdn.com. You can go to events and choose Microsoft Ignite, and you can watch all the sessions. They're all recorded already out there ready for you to view, whether you went to the conference or not. So that's huge. So nobody's going to be out of the loop as far as what new is coming along. All right, so let's go ahead and say hi in the chat window. I want to make sure that everybody is seeing me. Let's see. Ingestion settings. Dun, dun, dun. Maybe not. Dun, dun. Do you guys see me? Let me know in the chat window. Oh, okay. You do see me? Am I streaming live or not? The YouTube thing says that I am, but I want to make sure you guys all see me. Okay. So, a couple of things about the way we do the chats in here. We use Slack. So in the description for this YouTube video that you're watching, there's a link to, if you've never joined the chat, to fill out a form for me to let you join. And then there's also a link to, if you've already joined, it's iwmentor.slack.com. Slack also has an app. You can have the app on your phone or your computer or whatever kind of phone you have. So that is where we have our conversations. There's a channel in here called General. I'm actually looking for you guys to help me maybe with some topics for some of the next Power Hours over in the General tab. And then the Power Hour tab in Slack is where we just chat and ask questions and have live interactions the whole time. So this is a really interesting little format. I have this software on my computer called XSplit Broadcaster, and it actually has an output directly to YouTube from the XSplit Broadcaster, which is what allows me to, not have to use the Google Hangout. So let me see. Microphone. I'm going to take my headset off. Let's see.
Okay, so you guys can still hear me, right? All right, I'm testing stuff out here. I was gonna start this like 10 minutes early to test it out, but I wanted to make sure that, so I wanted to make sure this was all copacetic with you guys. Okay, so now that I've taken my headset off, just verify that in the chat window, because I know there's a little bit of a delay. So just verify that. We'll make sure that the microphone works, and that's all fine and dandy. Kind of rearrange it a little bit. Okay. Now, who in the chat window was at Ignite? Y'all let me know if you were. And I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about kind of my experience and what went on there, and then talk about some of the announcements and things like that. So some people are saying they just, oh, it's just the splash screen. Okay. Let me just make sure. It says 21 are watching, so yeah. Stream options. Yeah, it's all working. Okay. I think a couple people just had to refresh, so that's maybe that's the only thing that was wrong. Cool. This is pretty neat. It's got like a little sort of dashboard for me for the live stream. Okay, Ignite. I did four. I did 3 different sessions, and I did one of them twice. But so for my experience for Ignite, oh, you were good. I'm glad you were there. D-crack. All right, yes, Stacy, that's the trick to this thing, is that my mouth is matched up with the words, because with the Google Hangout there was a delay between the microphone and my video camera, and you know, it's a big pain. All right, so one of the sessions that I talked about, what I did was, we had these what was called theater sessions, and we had theater sessions and hub talks. So hub is like a big one of those big Microsoft hub touchscreen TVs. And also I did a business solutions requirements gathering little 20-minute session that was in front of that was a hub talk. That was one of those just really quick, just requirements gathering information, not too technical, just kind of going over, not necessarily anything about any new technologies, but just the concepts of business requirements gathering. And then I did one about Power Apps and Flow. And I built a little solution of Power Apps in Power Apps and a little bit of Flow. It was only a 20-minute session, so it was a theater session, but I actually had the Power Apps team helping me there were some just last minute things that, like, couldn't figure out the syntax to this or that, or I wanted a certain thing to show a certain way, and how do you, so they actually sat down with me and helped me kind of iron out a few things just a couple hours before my session. So that was really cool of them. And then the big session that we did was me and Adam Harmitz from Microsoft. He's a SharePoint GPM. He and I did a big session in front of about 1,000 people or so. The room, it said 1,600 people registered, but I don't know how many actually were in the room. But that was on making the most of the new team sites. So the idea is that, I don't know if you guys have seen the new team sites. I might pull one up in a minute in my, share my screen, but they made things a lot simpler. So for those of us who've been using SharePoint for a few years, it's kind of like, oh, who moved my cheese? Everything's rearranged, and I have to figure out how the new way to get to things and the new way to get around. But when you think about it from the end user perspective, the new team sites and the new modern lists and libraries are much easier for the masses, much easier to understand what you're doing, understand how to get around, just basic file collaboration and working with items and lists. So the gist of the talk that I wanted to convey was that when you're from the IT perspective, so that's different perspectives that we talked about. From the IT perspective, and my background is as a server admin. From our perspective, there are kind of a couple of different extremes and a lot of in-betweens that I've seen as far as the way people do permissions and site provisioning and site governance and things like that. So one extreme is that total IT control. So sometimes people might even have like all of their permissions are controlled just through AD groups and not with SharePoint groups, and all their permissions are controlled through, if anybody needs to be added to a site, you have to go edit the AD group or put in a change request for IT, and then IT has also total control of any adding lists and libraries. You'd have to go through them as well. So they've made it so it's completely locked down, and there isn't much that sort of end users and power users can do. There's not much you can screw up, but you don't have much freedom in there either. So then the other extreme that I've seen is that you kind of just say anybody can have a SharePoint site, and it's very just, power to the people. And some companies will just have a quick little site provisioning script that somebody are using, self-service site creation, where people can just go create a site anytime, and then you just have a site or site collection and you're the owner of it and you do whatever you want. That's the other extreme. But kind of some of the problems I've seen with both of them is that in both cases you end up having IT having to spend a lot of time hand holding people. So with the IT control sort of scenario, IT has to spend a lot of time because they're imparting it upon themselves to do things like create lists and libraries and manage permissions, and all these things are sucking up their resources. But then on the other hand, when you democratize it, everybody can just do whatever and get a site, whether they know what they're doing or not. People sometimes will break things, or people are confused about things, or they need help and they need handholding. And so IT resources kind of get, you get sucked in there one way or the other. So, drum roll, the cool thing about the new team sites and the new modern look is that it's just easier. It just all makes sense. They didn't take away the stuff that you're used to being able to do. You can still go create web part pages. You can still use the old way of editing pages. You can still use the old way of editing web parts. But when you think about just handing a site to somebody who's brand new to Office 365 or brand new to SharePoint, and just letting them be able to use it, there's a nice pretty little new button on the home page, and there's some nice easy basic out of the box web parts that they can use, and that way they can just do it themselves. So that was sort of the whole gist of the talk, is that when you think about it being SharePoint for the masses and IT being able to kind of hand the sites over and not have to handhold so much, it's really a good thing. And then you have people, the people that have been using SharePoint for years that are kind of like, well, they dumbed it down, or they took things away from me, or now it's kind of a pain to do, blah, blah, blah. Well, you can still do what you've been doing. So team sites, so right now, if you're in Office 365 and you have an Office 365 group, it has become a team site. It's all the same. So instead of just having that one big library, you can create multiple ones. You can create multiple lists. So Corey last Power Hour did a demo on Planner, and we were commenting that Planner is now sort of a group, but now it's still separate from SharePoint. But guess what? Planner is going to still be part and integrated as part of these new sort of entities that are a team site and a group and a planner and everything all in one. So it will be all one thing, and when you go to create a new site, it won't be as confusing. They also talked about, one of the big announcements they made was about OneDrive. The sync client has got a huge new update. So now instead of the OneDrive, 2Drive, White Drive, Blue Drive, John White's always talking about, you're going to have one OneDrive, and you're going to have the ability to have it be your personal one and have your OneDrive for business all in the same place. And a lot of that cool functionality that the personal OneDrive had, like being able to pick a specific folder sync and things like that, is all going to be part of OneDrive for business as well. So let's see what other comments you guys have. I saw a couple of you, I think Carlos, I saw you there, and I saw, I hung out with a few of you from the chat window. Just your screen names are throwing me off, but yeah. And then also Harmony, is a vendor that has a cool piece of software that does it lets you do a lot of your SharePoint work just from within Outlook. They have a free Outlook add-in that you could get. Anyway, they have a top 25 influencers thing that they do every year, and I was number 4. I got my little trophy. I want to share with you guys. Yay. Top 25. It's got my name on it. It's very lovely. And then I actually interviewed a bunch of the other influencers and just some MVP things and people like that, just in the Harmony booth. So that was a lot of fun. Let's see. Let me see if I can. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Tony says, "What happens if you leave the business? Pertaining to what?" And Potterful says, "When does the new roll out for GA?" All right, so let's go look at that, and I will share my screen. Let me change my resolution real quick. It changed it on both monitors. Hold on. I just wanted it to do on one monitor. There we go. My computer had a big update right before I started this, so gotta love that, right? Okay, so I'm gonna share that screen. Let's see. Ooh, there we go. That was easy. And get SharePoint pulled up over here. This is an old team site. So let's go ahead and go to, so this is my Wonderlara tenant, which is just my demo tenant where I do a bunch of, testing and demos and things like that. So we're going to look at some stuff in OneDrive, and then we're going to look at the way groups look now. So notice that in OneDrive that, they make changes that you'll notice kind of every now and then as you go in here, is that not only do I have my files, which is just, again, your OneDrive for business is just that good old my site shared documents document library. It's just a library in your own site collection. So this, by default, when I go to OneDrive, that's what I see here. But now in OneDrive, I don't have to go to all these different places where I've been working on files. I don't have to remember what site I was on when I did XYZ or worked on a different file. I can just go to this recent tab and I can see all these different items that I've been working on, and then shared with me. That's when somebody went to a document and clicked the share button, and then that's all going to show in one place. So I don't have to remember. This is huge to me for end users. They don't have to remember where they were working. Just like when you have, in Word, just in Microsoft Word, when you have all your recent files in there, and it doesn't really matter where they are. They're just files you've been working on. So that concept exists in the Word client, and they've actually done some improvements in there as well. But it also exists here in the OneDrive, like when you click on the waffle and go to the OneDrive. So you've also got discover what's trending around you, learn more about what people can see and discover, and that is the same concept of SharePoint search and delve. Now I came to the realization the other day when I was talking to somebody about search. They were asking me about audit logs and knowing how many people had looked at a file and things like that. And I said, well, you can use search. Search has all that data in it. But they're like, well, what if they never search for it? And so all this time, and when I talk about how powerful SharePoint search is, it didn't occur to me that some people think that search is just only got information about things people actually typed and did a search for. Search is a giant database that it knows everything that exists in your environment. So search is like all the content that exists in SharePoint there's math being done behind the scenes where it's being indexed and it's being crawled and it's being cataloged and all this stuff. But search is a giant database that it knows about everything, whether people have searched for it or not. So I kind of wanted to make that clear. But when you see, people talking about Delve and talking about like the screen that lets discover and things that are suggested to you, there's a ton going on behind the scenes with just understanding who's working on what. So for example, it knows who I am in the organization and who is related to me. And like related to me as in we have the same manager or we're on the same team. So it knows with all that information and knowing who I'm near in the organization, hopefully your AD is accurate, then it uses all that data to show you this type of information, what's trending around you. So that's Delve, that's the same concept. So here are some groups that we have, and I'll go into groups in a second, but I want to go show you Delve. There's actually a new, I'm going to show you the new, so Delve Analytics, they actually renamed it My Analytics. So we'll look at that too, because that's another one of the huge announcements that they just made. So popular documents, again, same concepts here, but it's just a different place that I can go to it. And let's go to I'm going to go to myself here. I'm going to go to my About Me page. And, where was it? Delve Analytics. It was over here. I know it was. Hold on a second. So, but again, this is the same concept. This is Delve right here, showing me not just files that I've been working on, but it's going to let me discover files. So they've done a lot around that, and and another big announcement they made was the not Delve. Delve is not renamed, but Delve Analytics is now called My Analytics. So that's going to be just another one of those huge announcements. So let's go see. No favorites, not favorites. They probably moved it on me. Let's go back to Delve and see if it's in there. Also, the Delve Analytics is not going to be in every kind of tenant. So this is actually an E3 tenant, I believe, this test one that I have. But my E1 tenant, which is like my small business tenant, it doesn't have Delve Analytics. It just has, it's a little more basic when you go to the screen. All right, so let's go look at a little bit more of the new stuff. So I'm going to go to back where I was to my OneDrive because I saw the names of my groups there. So I saw my groups. So this is my little test group. So this is an Office 365 group. So now you'll notice when you go to groups, this looks a little different. This even looks a little different than it did last week for me. So I can go to my group and I can see files, notebooks shared with us and things like that on the left side. But let me go create, I'm going to actually go create a new group because it had a home button over here the last time I looked at it. Corey, I think that there is a lag, but you let me know if you see that and where that was. Okay, so I'm going to go create a new group. So let's go to this little plus button. And of course it opens up Outlook. Logically, right? It makes total sense. So I'm going to go create a new group. I don't want to have to go to the admin center. I just want to create a new group from, see, there it is, right, from within Outlook. You can do it. And technically a group is something that exists in Exchange and Exchange admin that you can do from within the admin center, but I want to just create a new group right here. Okay, so I'll just choose a name, test. This is my Ignite demo here, and stuff here. And then, let's see. And I might actually go to a couple of different tenants here just to, because you'll see different things because of that rollout schedule. And we'll go look at the rollout schedule too. I'm going to say public and yes. So right now, the new look and all the, not just the modern lists and libraries, but the new look itself for the pages and everything is being rolled out to your existing Office 365 groups. but your existing team sites are not getting that yet. That's sort of like the next, gonna be like the next rollout there. Makes sense? So I'm gonna add Corey in here and go. Okay, so I'm gonna go to View Group Files and Activity, which is SharePoint, really. So yeah. Yeah, they kind of, so the little home, you'll see when you have the new one, it'll have like the home button up here. So I'm going to go open a different tenant and we're going to go see if we can see that. I'm pretty sure that it was in this tenant that I saw the home button last week though. I don't think they retracted it. Oh, so let's also go to, I think it's fasttrack.office.com. fasttrack.microsoft.com, which is where we have the rollout schedule. Let's see. Roadmap. Yep. I'll put that in the chat window. It's waiting. Okay, let's see. fasttrack.microsoft.com/roadmap. Over to Slack. You guys are very quiet. You asked me some stuff, or give me some feedback what you think. So here's the roadmap. So when you're asking about things that have been rolled out that I'm talking about in here, this is where you're going to be able to go see what has been launched, fully released updates. So that means that's not just going to be for like the pre-release stuff. And these are all these concepts that have been rolled out, 66 things. So I'm not going to not go through every one of them in here, but you can see that that's where they put all that stuff. So things that are launched, and then it's got different categories rolling out. So you're gradually going to get it. And then things that are coming, and then things that are canceled. So that's interesting. Okay, so for one of you who asked me when things are rolling out, that's where you have to go look, to go scan through and look for the feature that you're looking for. You're also going to have in your tenant in admin, let's see if I'll go over to admin, and you're going to have a little message center in here as well that's going to tell you things that are coming out. And it looks like nothing's coming out. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So this is, if you are an admin, this is one place where you can go to see some of that stuff. But Microsoft Fast Track is also another way that you can see it. All right. So let's go I'm going to create a different kind of group, and I'm going to open up a different tenant, and I'm going to look for that new groups interface. Let's see. Outlook on the web. I'm curious what this is. New first run experience. Oh, new users initially onboarding to Outlook. So let me see. Just a minute. Did Microsoft address the issue of SharePoint Online being so slow at Ignite? Hasn't been really slow for me. I'm not sure what. I mean, I can see it varies a lot, but there's so many different factors. So I haven't heard people just saying SharePoint is slow. I've seen like various kind of depending on different things and environments, maybe it changes, but it's not just slow all the time for me, just personally. All right, let's see. Yeah, no, they changed it back. So I looked at another tenant. So this, that group that I was looking at right here, it did say home up here. So you'll notice when you get the new groups, it'll say home up here, and you'll have like that new homepage editing experience. And so is what we were looking for. All right, that's just, I have a tenant that's like a pre-release thing that it's NDA. I can't really share that here. So that's the other one that I can go to for testing and stuff. Okay. Let's go ahead and Chris says, why would I create a group? What's the overview concept of groups? Well, that is a great question, Chris. And the reason the reason that Microsoft decided to make groups and team sites the same thing is because of your question. Why would I create a group? So they came out with groups a couple of years ago, and a group was really, as you can see, a group is really just kind of like a dumbed down team site where it's just got one library. It's got a group of people. You can have conversations. You can share a calendar. You can share notes. But it's very, like, it doesn't have a way to, like, do admin like a regular site collection, do a lot of things. It's just very kind of what you see is what you get. You can't do workflows or anything. So Microsoft came out with groups a couple of years ago, but then people kept asking, well, are you getting rid of team sites? What's the difference between why do I create a group versus why do I create a team site? And you can't really convert one to be the other. So I need to kind of know when I'm creating things, what I need to create them as. So because of all that confusion, that's where, Microsoft said, hey, sharing and collaborating on files is the bread and butter of SharePoint. Let's just not make it confusing and not make it so people don't even know where to start or what to do or what to use. So now a group and a team site are the same thing. All right. So a group is, you'll also notice it in admin, like when you go to Exchange Admin, because a group does have an email address. And so you noticed a minute ago when I created a new group, it gave me an option to be able to say whether or not it was public, and it also showed me that it was creating a email address for it. So each group automatically gets an email address. Let's see if I can go to site contents. Ooh, see, when I go to site contents, it just pops me back to the beginning. And it's still a little awkward. So Microsoft knows that it's very awkward, because now when I go to group conversations, it takes me back over to Outlook. So this is where you have your conversations are happening in Outlook, and your files are happening in SharePoint, and your calendar is happening in Outlook. So it's a group calendar, which is not the same as a SharePoint calendar. So look, Corey, look at that. Planner. So now Planner, which is going to open in yet another window, is going to be part of the group. So again, it's a little clunky with going back and forth between still being in the same group, but going to the files versus the calendar versus the conversation versus the planner. It's taking you all these different screens. So they have said that they're working on just that concept. No, Stewart had automatically created the email address as the name of the group. So even though I didn't type an email address in there, let's go back and look at that. So I'm going to go to my group set. Oh, so now I'm in the planner though. I got to go to my group settings, edit group, or I could do group email settings. Look at that. Ooh, that's cool. Edit group. We'll look at all those. I can give the group an icon, like a custom icon, and I can say whether or not people outside the organization can email it. So when I created the group, the email address was just showing there. But let's just go back, and I didn't make any changes. Let's go back to that group email settings. So let's see. I'm just going to view the details and see. Yeah, see Test Ignite. So as I was creating it and I called it Test Ignite, it put Test Ignite at Wonderlar, blah, blah, blah. So that's the email address. And that is, the emails are going to be dumped into this conversations thing. Some of this is new and some of it isn't. The planner being part of this is definitely new. But yeah, they're definitely working on making it so that it's all more, kind of seamless across. I like the group email settings. So it says kind of, this is for me to be able to determine, well, I don't want to get notified about everything. Copy these messages to my inbox. So I can pick just specific things because I don't want to get inundated with a bunch of information from this group maybe. All right. Another big thing they announced fairly recently is the focused inbox. So if I go to my inbox, they realize that clutter is, people aren't realizing that it's there, like clutter itself being a separate folder. A lot of times people don't check it, and then things end up there, and things that people really wanted end up in clutter. So Microsoft created this new thing called the focused inbox that I'm actually already noticing it in my Outlook app on my iPhone, that it's got the focused inbox as the default view of my inbox. But it's going to be basically focused versus, it's not in this tenant yet, but it's going to be focused versus just like all. So that way it's going to use a bunch of algorithms to determine what it thinks are things that I want to read versus things that are just a bunch of noise in my inbox. So it's going to do that's going to roll out pretty soon, and it's going to show just in the default view. Can I discuss external sharing with groups? Well, the group is a team site now. So, but it's just not like when a group becomes a team site, it's going to be the same. So let me see if I can go to site settings if it lets me do that. No, it won't let me go to site settings. That is really odd. Let me see if it'll. Maybe it's no, it's not my browser. I was trying it in a different browser, and it's just simply not letting me go to site settings. But when they do completely finish rolling out groups becoming team sites and vice versa, then external sharing is going to be the same concept, like just as sharing, inviting other people. But that email address, like when I first created the group, where it let me pick whether I wanted people to be able to email the group or not, that is, so I can go edit group. And that was a setting when I created the group. See, let people outside the organization email it. So that would just be like, in SharePoint on-prem, where you can set up a document library to receive incoming email from people outside of the company. So, or kind of the same concept of having a team site mailbox, a site mailbox. So that means that people outside the company can send email to this group, and it's going to show up in this conversation. That doesn't mean, in this case, that doesn't mean that people outside the company can go to the group. They can just send email to it, and that way, you could have multiple people monitoring it, etc. Ariel, you think what had to be done on Office 365 Admin? I think there's, again, because of the delay, I'm not sure. Let's see. Work done in content type hub site columns will be available. Yes, Potterful. I did notice when I was testing one of the new team sites, it did have, like, I could split off permissions, and I could do just like with any list and library, and I could give, have SharePoint groups, and I can do all that with permissions, and I could do content types and everything. It just, the main difference was it just had a different looking home page. Instead of being like this with just documents, it actually had a home button, and it has these new types of web parts that you can do. So let's see if I think I already demoed the sort of the new look of web parts in a previous Power Hour, but I'll just show you real quick. Any of you can do this in your tenants, because this rolled out quite a while ago. If you go to create a new blog post in your About Me page, this little plus button it shows here, that's sort of what it's going to look like, the new way of inserting web parts, except they added a whole bunch of different ones. My favorite one is called highlighted content, which is kind of like a content search web part, but much, much easier for just typical business users. So let's see. Oh, you're referring to that article, guest access? Okay. I'll be interested to see if that's any different than the way the external sharing works, though. So let's go look at that. It's weird because this tenant that I have, it had the it had the Delve Analytics, the My Analytics the other day, and it had the new team site look the other day. And now it doesn't. It's just like, that's totally where I was going to do all these demos. That's weird that it would go backwards like that. So let's go to, we'll go to admin. So so this is sort of more of the high level. You saw what I could do as just an individual user creating a group, but now this is the admin controlling what people can do, creating groups, etc. So I can go to settings and then services and add-ins. I love this screen the other day. I was going to demo something. I was looking through here the other day, and I started just, oh, what is this? And clicking on things, and I just kind of had to walk away because I just would have gotten completely buried in there. Okay, so then I'm going to go to Office 365 groups right here. I go on little tangents when I'm finding new things in Office 365. I also want to show you some of the new stuff in the lists and libraries that you might not have noticed, that if you haven't really started using them every day, but that's really good to know. Okay, let people outside my organization access Office 365 groups, resources shared with them. So I have that on. And then, so that's using sharing though. Somebody clicks share and shares it externally. And then they will continue to have access to individual group files that were directly shared with them. Interesting. Let group owners add people outside my organization to Office 365 groups. So that is your way of controlling a little bit of that. Yeah. What about creating groups in the first place? Yeah. Because I know as an admin, I wouldn't want just every end user just being able to create groups and do whatever they wanted. And I've seen Exchange admins kind of yelling about that. So they did add, I think we already talked about a little bit the other day when Todd was on here about some of the OneDrive, some of the new reporting and stuff that's in here. But let's go ahead and go to the new look for lists and libraries and kind of dig into that. So now I've got all these tabs. Don't you love the way it adds a million tabs now as you kind of go around in here? So I'll go to Files, and I'm going to go upload a file. I heard that you can look at this. Do you guys see this? Is this amazing or what? I clicked upload file in a library and I can select multiple things. Holy cow. Huge. This is one of those things that kind of people have been wanting for, 10 years, and it's just very simple, but now I can do it. So now I have multiple ways, of course, of putting multiple files in a library, but I don't have to discern that just and determine which button I need to click. I just can click upload and pick multiple things, or I can drag them in and do all the ways I've always been able to. So I picked a couple of files, and Microsoft also noticed that something that people commonly do is they go to their OneDrive and they might start off a file just it's just your own personal file, and then later on you need to move that file to a team site like this or to a group. So what they're doing is, let me go in a different window, go over to OneDrive, and we'll see if it's in my tenant or not. But with any one file, I can click Move To, and it's gonna give me the ability to move it to a different place. So right now it's just got Places, OneDrive Files, but it's basically going to give you the ability to have a bunch of other sites that you can move stuff to. So they did a demo of that at Ignite. So right now this is just folders that exist in this library, but the idea is that they're going to be you can move it from your OneDrive to a team site, and that way you can say, like, okay, I started on this, but now we're going to share it. So that's a great it's sort of like a natural sort of flow that they've discovered that people do when they're working on files. So let's just kind of look in here at just the way to work on files a little bit. Let me go back to my Test Ignite one. This is the new look for the modern libraries. Of course, the sync is OneDrive for Business. I have a new and easy way to create a link to a file in another library, which you could always do in libraries, right? You could always just go go to advanced settings, go turn on the ability to have content types, go click add a content type, go add the content type called link to a document. And then you'd have on the new drop down, you'd have the ability to do a link. But now it's just there. So now I can create a link, which will let me look at that. I don't have to know the URL. Oh. So I can just pick what I want to have a link to. So this is a file that I created called Looping Workflow, and it is in a different site collection, or it's in a different place, but it's just showing the link to it here. Lee, that is in all libraries and sites, I believe, but I'm not positive about the move. I know that the move exists in all of them, but the moving it to a different site, I'm not sure. So let's go look at a little bit of that. So you can select things in here and do things, of course, with an individual file like you could with the ribbon. But before we select something, let's go just look at the information button. This is going to be a log of all the activity in the whole library, just right there on the screen. So that's another huge thing that's coming out with all that I love about these new lists and libraries, is that you can just do everything just on this same screen, and you don't have to go like down a rabbit hole and get lost. So that's my husband's kind of just delving into SharePoint, and that's kind of one of the comments that he made. You know, when you start going to settings and you start going all these different screens, you feel like you've gone down a rabbit hole and you're not really sure how to get back where you were. But that's what I love about this, is that it keeps everything on the same page. This is huge. Carl, to select multiple files, I just use my control key or my shift key on my keyboard to do it, just like you would select multiple files in your file system. All right, so this is going to show all my activity, and it's going to show when people edit things, etc. So I'll go, I click in an individual file, and I can see all the metadata here. Again, I'm not having to go anywhere. I can see what kind of file it is, and I can go edit the properties. Say I can just give it a title. This is a policy. And it's saving it. I just hit enter and it's saving it right there. Now I can go edit all the metadata, but let me show you before I do that. Let's show you just adding a column. I just click a plus button and I say what kind of column it is. Oh my goodness, wow, right? So I'm gonna give it a person. I'm gonna say policy owner. I always use company policies in my demos, don't I? Policy owner, and then I can do, some of the ones that aren't showing here, I could do more and it would just take me to that regular column creation screen. But I can do date, I can say policy date, and I'm just creating the metadata right here on the screen. And look at this, watch this, you guys, are you ready for this? Ooh. I can change my column widths. Oh my goodness, right? So I can change my column widths as I go. And then quick edit is, that's your data sheet view. And I'll go in here and put some metadata in these things. So I'm just gonna say, that's weird, that's very odd looking. Oh, that's because I'm in Firefox. oh, thank you, Maroon. So that's the new SharePoint content publishing experiences. That's a whole session they did at Ignite. A lot of that was geared towards the branding people and the branding sort of audience, so I haven't watched that one yet. But that goes into that entire, like all the new web parts, the ways of editing pages, and goes really in depth into that. So that's going to be a good one to watch. Let's see. And then policy date, I'm going to do a date field. I'm going to do a few of these just to kind of get some information in here. That way you can see how fast and easy it is to do this. And then I'm done, I click done. I don't have to go to the ribbon. I don't have to get all lost and not know where things are. I did notice that the width of the column doesn't necessarily stick though. All right, and see, look, my policy owner, that didn't work. So how do I edit metadata? There are a couple of different ways I can do it. I can go to my details, which will open the details pane, or I can go to more and I can go to properties, which is the same thing as going to just the regular file properties screen. Or I can, again, multiple ways of doing things. I can go to just click the details pane right here, that little eye. So you guys get used to the little eye. It's going to be very helpful. I can see the file right there. And then I can click Edit All, which will take me to, this is one of the new sort of modern forms, and I can go hopefully type Corey's name right there and it will resolve it. All right, and then I'm going to put a couple more policy owners in here so I can show you some of this cool grouping stuff. So I'll go ahead and edit that one too. Thank you guys. So that is a Word document that I created with screenshots of my video settings. That's real nice, huh? I'll put me. And then I'm gonna put Corey, or put one of us, just one more real quick. I'll go to the settings the other way. So I'll go to more and then properties. That's not the easiest thing to get to. And then I'll put Laura and oops. Okay, so that's nothing new right there, but there we go. Okay, so now I'm back to documents, and I have, I think I demoed this in a previous Power Hour where we looked at the new look, but I do have the ability to pick one and choose to pin it to the top. So that way, if I think it's the most important thing everybody needs to see, then I can do that and leave it up there, and I can have a couple of them up there. But watch this. Watch this. Are you guys ready? Okay. Group by policy owner. Can you see this? So whatever column I click on, I can do sorting and filtering like I've always been able to do. Group by policy owner. And I just selected all of them. It grouped them right there. I didn't have to go to any view settings. But notice something as you're doing your I'm changing views and I'm changing groupings. This little asterisk. So this is just like when you're editing a file or like you're editing a web page or something, that familiar little asterisk that shows you that you've changed something, and like workflows have it. What's it called? Basically it tells you that something's been changed and you need to save it. So as soon as I start editing my view on the fly like that, I'm going to see that it has this little asterisk. So I'm going to edit one more thing. Watch this. Not only can I add new columns, just brand new columns with this plus, I can choose show hide columns, and I think that's actually hidden from behind my face here. Let me move my face. How about, woo. I think you guys are on a delay, so you're probably trying to warn me about that before. All right. Okay, so and it won't let me scroll down any further. So here it is down here, show hide columns. This is view settings. Huge, right? I don't have to go to a different screen. I can just quickly pick which columns I want to be showing in my view just on the fly. So I've done a couple of things. I'm going to unpin this. I don't want it up there. It's kind of annoying me. I've done a couple of things. I grouped it by policy owner, and I removed a couple of columns. So now I want to save my view. So I can do save view. Manage views just takes me back to the regular old list settings or library settings screen. So I'll do save view. I can give it a different name if I want, or I can just click save. I made changes to all documents, and I can just save those changes. So just like saving a file, saving a view. Holy cow, yay! What do y'all think of this stuff? And watch this. Okay, are you ready for this? This is so cool. Okay, so this policy needs to be Corey's policy instead of mine. I need him to be the policy owner. So I select it, and I drag it over to Corey's group. And it actually edited the metadata on the fly. I didn't have to go edit properties. Yes, so if I go do my little information panel, I can see that, see, I made edits less than a minute ago. I edited it, and if I looked at my version history, it would show me that I changed the policy owner to Corey Emmons. This new little pop-up is actually brand new. Looks a little clunky with this resolution, but I can hover over somebody's name now, just anywhere that you see, like just people's names in SharePoint, and it shows me all this detailed information about them, and I can quickly IM them or email them just directly from this pop-up box if I'm curious about, who somebody is. Wow, I've only got 6 minutes left. So some of the main things, so I showed you this on a document library, but a lot of this same stuff I just showed you, it's for lists as well. So think about it again. Think about it from that, give your mom a SharePoint site, or somebody that's never seen SharePoint, and show them how to work in a list or library, and it's all just much more intuitive. So another thing that I can do with an individual file is I can choose whether, how I want to open it, and I can move. So here's the move to thing that we were talking about. So there are a few things here. There are still a few settings that exist only in the classic look for libraries that you would need to switch your library back to classic look to be able to get them, because there's no ribbon anymore. So, but as you can see, they keep adding more. So I can do move to here, and then I don't have any other libraries on this site, but it's giving me the ability to create a new folder in this same library. So again, the moving to multiple libraries, I believe, is something that is on the way, but it's something that Microsoft's definitely working on. Let's go look at my demo, my Power Apps demo. So let's go Power Apps. In my 4 minutes that I have left. I went to a full day, a pre-con session on Power Apps and Flow. So it was all day Sunday before Ignite started. I got to meet the product teams and work a whole bunch in Power Apps and Flow. So I got to sign into the correct tenant here. Oops, it's admin. I'm thinking about putting together in my own company that I have, putting together a class for this, for Power Apps and Flow. People have already started asking me about that. So let me sort this by the most recently modified. This is my Ignite demo. I can go edit it. And I'll just show you kind of real quick some of the stuff I was doing in there. So Maroon, when you say timesheets, do you mean like creating your own timesheets list in SharePoint? Oh, Tony, that's a good point. Are you sure you want to move this file? Yeah, that whole send to thing, that's not in the new look. So you'd have to flip back to the classic look to be able to do the send to, and it's completely different than the move to. So, all right, so here, let's go preview. I think it's got all my data in here, maybe. Yeah. So here are my customers. I have this so that it I could span my hour. If a customer is inactive, I just did some conditional formatting to show them in red, and then I can click on a customer. So now I can see, I don't know why it keeps giving me that error. I can see that the projects for that specific customer all listed here. And again, I don't know if I have this all wired up, but I have hours used, and it was showing, I did conditional formatting that was showing it as red if the hours went like 90% of the total hours for that project. So I can go look at the time. I think it's not connected to my timesheet. So I can go look at the time for that particular project, or I could go add an item. So I can have this app on my phone. Speaking of timesheets, I can have this app on my phone. You can tell this is like a phone interface that I created. What day did I work? Well, I didn't work on 10/12 yet. I worked on 10/4 maybe. And I worked on this project, and it defaulted it to the right project, and did some stuff. And then I can do save and new, which will save it. So now I've got a new blank one, and I can fill it out, or I can do save and finish. Maybe I worked on 10/3. I don't usually do mine in order when I do them. And then save and finish takes me back to here. So I have to figure out what I did to my timesheet list that broke it. But then I also did this social thing where I did my tweets. So look, there's my most recent tweet. You see that? So that's the Power Hour tweet, and I can see how many retweets that I had. And I can create a tweet from within this app. So I can go, my camera's not accessible right now because I'm using it for power hour, but I can go type my tweet here. I could take a picture if I want and on my phone and click send, and that will post my tweet. I don't know if I got that functionality all working correctly, but yeah, some fun stuff. So I'm going to start probably blogging about how to do some of those things, like how to filter the projects by the customer that I selected and stuff like that, because that was kind of tricky to figure out. Also, we talked to the product team to kind of give them feedback about what things that were tricky and things that, to try and make them a little easier. And they have been started to work on that. So like if I have a button in here, I can go to action and I can just click navigate instead of having to know to type this command to navigate to a certain screen. I can just click navigate and I can pick which screen and pick which transition. So hopefully we'll be able to build a lot more concepts like that into here. But yeah, that was another big deal thing that was going on in Ignite, was Power Apps and Flow being the new thing to replace, they're not necessarily saying it, but it's not necessarily InfoPath replacement. It's more of a upgrade path kind of, because you're not going to be migrating InfoPath forms to this. You're going to be recreating them. But InfoPath's going away. Like InfoPath's going away, and it's harder and harder to use it in browsers, and it's just nobody's going to improve it. There's not a way to fix the fact that you can't do an InfoPath form on your phone. So you're going to have to recreate them in something. So yeah, this could be the thing that you recreate them in. I'll go ahead and let's go back to this other view here and stop sharing my screen. And oh, it did my, when did the camera do that? When did the camera like unzoom me? That's awesome. I'm gonna have to edit that out. There we go. You should have told me it did that. Last time I looked at it, it just had my face. It's so funny. All right, so we'll see if I can figure out this live streaming thing and edit stuff out. But thanks everybody for coming, and you guys go in the little general tab in the chat in Slack and give me some ideas for upcoming power hours, because I don't have anything listed right now in my little schedule that I have on my blog site. So thanks everybody. I'll see you next time, next Wednesday, 11 Central. Over and out. Let's see if I can figure out how to turn this thing off. I've never used this direct streaming thing, so I have to go figure it out live. I can just turn my computer off. That would probably do the trick.